done out in the best part of 50 topic areas on the specification, so about a third of the course covered. Those that were asleep or started late yesterday or weren't here yesterday, I think they're all repeat descendants upon us. This is stuff that several teachers have clubbed together and thought what sort of things might come up in the exam, things that haven't come up recently, for example, things that have come up but not for the last 3 or 4 years, weren't on last year, that sort of idea. They've helped me choose the 16 things we're looking at. So we're going to go through this lot today, and that's the idea. Any more questions, any thoughts, any concerns? Do you think this will be a 14 mark question? How do you think that sort of question might be asked? Then yeah, put it in the chat window and I'll reply. The majority of the chat yesterday was really good. They were asking intelligent questions, and you know as well as I do, the majority of questions that came through the chat window, I responded verbally rather than typing, because it was a good question and I thought it was relevant to all the people who were with us. Okay, now we've got 5 minutes gone. We're going to get the show on the road. Okay, we're going to come back to these questions at a regular interval. This is question on slide 3, potential questions. The first question, identify and explain 3 different muscle fiber types used in different stages of a swimming race. Important thing here, identify and explain. So identify the muscle fiber type and explain why that particular muscle fiber type is being used in different stages of a swimming race. There's your big clue. Are we looking at that and realizing that question actually tells you how long the race lasts? Because the question says that the 3 different types of muscle fibers are being used, and therefore for at least part of the race, slow twitch fibers must be being used. And slow twitch fibers are only done with rhythmical, non-fatiguing contractions. So it must be a relatively long race. Does that make sense? Just looking at the question gives you big insiders. Okay, second question on the screen. What do you understand by the term motor units? How are motor units involved in spatial summation? We'll come back to that one. Let's look at that first question first of all. Okay, ready to start working, guys? Nick, you can start working now. On the screen, please. Slow twitch fibers are predominantly aerobic. Okay, we can cope with that. Therefore, write down, should we say 4, please? Write down 4 characteristics of slow twitch fibers, or if you prefer, type 1 fibers. Have a go at that. Give you a minute to do that. Okay, we're back on the same sort of deal as yesterday. If you're not sure, ask the person next door. Don't just copy them, ask them, because if you listen to them, you'll store it in memory much more effectively than just copying out writing. You know that, don't you, from last year doing storing things in long-term memory. Okay, so when this question came up a few years ago, a similar sort of level of examination, not the same exam board, a different exam board by the way, the actual mark scheme had 15 characteristics of slow twitch fibers. So there are lots of alternative answers to these. I've only listed about 7 or 8. But you could have put something like they have lots of mitochondria for the aerobic pathways to produce their resynthesized ATP. They have lots of oxidative enzymes. Sorry about the layout there. I do know the problem is because I use widescreen laptops and widescreen monitors on my computers at home, whereas it's being presented through your screens and through subject support on a 4:3 normal sized screen. So just some of the layout is a bit changed. So lots of mitochondria, lots of oxidative enzymes. They go with mitochondria to make sure the oxygenation takes place. Third potential, idea. Sorry, just typing an answer. Lots of myoglobin, the red stuff that stores the oxygen in the slow twitch muscle fibers. Lots of capillaries, heavily capillarated. Capillarated is a new word. Lots of capillarization. So I always think they're the four obvious, as a physiologist, I think they're the four obvious ones. Link them back to the function. They're aerobic, therefore they must have lots of oxygen, therefore they must have lots of mitochondria, therefore they must have lots of capillaries and enzymes to deal with all this stuff coming in. You could have had it, and there'd be credit for in the exam for talking about things like they tend to be quite small. But don't just say they're small. I think saying they're small is not good enough. You need to say it's actually their diameter that is small. They're quite thin compared to the other types of muscle fibers. They contract quite slowly. Always gets me a bit frustrated that they're called slow twitch fibers because they twitch slowly. They contract slowly, and students often leave out that simplistic idea. How about the idea that they don't tend to get tired? They keep going for a long time. Posh words, they are fatigue resistance. Regular rhythmical contractions is what they're good at. And the other thing you may have shoved in there, they've got quite a low force production. They don't produce much force compared to the other sorts of fibers. And there are other characteristics. I just didn't want to put 15 on the screen. I don't think, if the question comes up, put some characteristics down with slow twitch fibers, it's going to be a 3 or 4 mark question. Unless, of course, it comes up as a compulsory question. The differences between fast and slow twitch fibers could be half a compulsory question. In that case, you'd need to know 8 to 10 differences between fast and slow twitch fibers. Fast glycolytic fibers is the proper word to use, I would have thought. But no one knows what's coming up in the exam, do they? Okay, so second guess then. Fast twitch fibers. The anaerobic fast twitch fibers, they have low levels of the same sort of stuff. Low levels of mitochondria, low levels of oxidative enzymes, low levels of myoglobin, lower levels of capillaries. If I was asking the question, what are the characteristics of fast twitch fibers, I wouldn't have thought they deserve credit. They're just the opposites of the aerobic bit. And I'm not overly convinced they deserve credit. So I'll give you a minute again, because I've given you those 4 answers. Write down 3 other characteristics of fast twitch fibers. And at the bottom, the bottom bar, the bottom rectangle that's available, what's their proper name? 1 minute. Name their proper name and 3 more characteristics, please, of fast twitch fibers. Okay, again, there are several, but I thought you should have mentioned, because they're anaerobic, they must have somewhere in there lots and lots of phosphokeratin sloshing around. But it's the phosphokeratin that enables them to contract very, very fast. They'll also, because they are anaerobic, they'll be heavily involved in glycolysis, even though it only produces pyruvate and lactic acid. Remember yesterday, when we did that stuff yesterday? So they must have high glycogen levels. Another characteristic, whereas the slow twitch fibers can delay fatigue, these ones are easily fatigued. And again, I think more worthy of credit than the top 4 low levels of things is the opposites from the slow twitch fibers. The fast twitch fibers are very, very rapid contractions, and the second mark probably, very, very forceful